Hello. So can we start?
Yeah, I think we'll start.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. We are gathered here for the ninth episode of our Industrial Connect series. So if we take some of our toughest problems we face, like climate change, urban planning, healthcare, poverty, this list can go on. So have you ever thought about working in such a field where you can solve problems and develop solutions that can actually make a difference in the community? Today, we have a special guest who can tell us in detail about career opportunities in social impact sector. I welcome Ms. Aparna Vijaykumar, expert in urban planning and climate change, to tell us about her journey from a civil engineer to being a change maker with an international NGO. Welcome to the session, ma'am. To give an introduction about the session and speaker, I welcome Mr. Anand MS, General Manager and Head of Product with SkillActz. Welcome, sir. Finally, I welcome all others who are present here today. Let's make this an interactive session. Also, students, please note, a Google form will be shared at the end of the session. Please fill in the Google form to receive the certificate of participation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Purnima. So, once again, very good evening and welcome all. So, to first of all introduce SkillActz, we are a platform which helps freshers to get their first job. And on the other side, we help our client companies to onboard fresh talent. So, Industry Connect is a series of webinars we have been doing every month to give an opportunity to students to understand about the world of work and career and how we can prepare for it, to expose the student community to the various options out there and things like that. So I hope this edition will also be useful for you. So this time we have a slightly lesser known career option, at least among the student community in Kerala, about working in NGOs and working in the development sector, and those kind of options which are really exciting and meaningful options before us. But because we don't have access to information about it, we don't have role models and people who have walked this path before. Often this is not something we usually consider as a career option. So I look forward to hearing Aparna tell us more about it. So I first met Aparna when I was working in another company, and I was involved in a project with the to promote adoption of electric vehicles in Kerala, and I was doing some work with the government, and the principal secretary transport, K.R. Jyotilal sir, told us that maybe we should call Aparna to, if we want to get things done. And so that is how, I contacted her. And, so it's been a few years, we've known, worked with, work together, and have also been good friends. So it is a pleasure for me to host her. Um, Aparna, completed her civil engineering from NSS College, Palakkad. She grew up in Palakkad, and then did her masters in planning from School of Planning and Architecture in Delhi, and has been working with the World Resources Institute. I think Aparna will tell us more about the World Resources Institute, an international NGO. And I will leave it to Aparna to tell us more about WRI probably. So she works in the field of sustainability and urban planning and things like that. I think those also I would leave it to her to tell you. So before we, invite Aparna to speak, just to get a sense of the room. How many of you are engineers? Maybe you can type in the comment box if you are an engineer or non-engineer, something like that.
There is a hand up, Fatima Femin.
Um, okay, electronics engineer. Anybody else? Come on, everyone. Just to make this interactive and for us also to make this a little more meaningful. MSW, MBA, BTech. BCom, MBA, BSc IT. Yeah, BEd. So I think overall variety of backgrounds. So that is interesting to know. Be civil. And how many of you have actively considered a career in working for an NGO or something like that? Anybody would like to talk about that? Maybe quickly you can. Okay, yeah, maybe we will come back to that. Aparna, maybe we can begin your presentation and then come back and take questions. Meanwhile, any questions you have, you could uh, type out in the comment box, or at the end of end of the session, you can ask directly. Keep making this interactive so that let's all have some fun and also meanwhile learn a few things. So Aparna, maybe you can get started. Thanks.
Thank you, Anand and Purnima for having me. And I mean, it's such an interesting, diverse group that we have here. So I don't have a very big slide deck or anything. And once I start presenting, I might not be able to check questions. So yeah, uh, if your team could just, you can just unmute and talk. I mean, I don't think that should be a problem. So yeah, I mean, with that, I will just start off. Uh, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, today, my background is, I work with a not-for-profit organization called World Resources Institute, and my work currently is a lot on what you see on the screen right now on urban transport, and I work on public transport in cities in India. So uh, I would like to start off with why, why do we do the work that we do right now? Why are we working in this sector? And what is the potential? And how do you go about uh, finding these positions? What are your options to do certain courses, skills? What are the skills required? All of that. So essentially, I mean, I just want to give you like a big picture on where our world is headed right now. So I mean, in by 2050, which is just about 25 years from now, we will see around 2.5 billion people in cities. And of that, a majority, 90% of which would be in uh, the so-called developing nations in Africa and Asia. And we are seeing like big trends, like mega trends of huge change from people moving from rural areas to urban areas. And then as we move from urban areas, there is a huge pressure on the governance systems, on the resources in certain specific geographies to supply for this kind of demography who is moving into urban areas. So you need to build more buildings, you need to provide transportation, and you need to provide healthcare, educational facilities for them. And with that, I mean, there is a huge increase in pollution, in in use of resources. And that is where that whole pressure to decarbonize, like to move from uh, fossil fuels to greener fuels, all of those kind of arise. And again, due to this, I mean, bigger change in how you're utilizing your resources, the rapid pace at which we are utilizing our resources in terms of water, in terms of land, in terms of I mean, deforestation, all of that, there is increased climate risk. I mean, I mean, if you're a Keralite, I mean, uh, I mean, we are having like, periodic floods every year since 2018, which was not the case a decade or so ago. We are seeing, I mean, we are seeing cyclones, we are seeing wide forest fires. All of these are, increased climate risk, right? And then we are also seeing that due to this huge demographic change, I mean, our governance systems might not be keeping that pace to the kind of pressure that we have to provide for the population. So there is a huge technological revolution as well. Like 2 3 years back, you didn't have a UPI. I mean, you were I mean, if you had to transfer I mean, 1,000 rupees from one person sitting here to somebody in Delhi, there is no way but to go to your bank, and or else you have to add add your I mean, recipient on your internet banking and all of that. Now it is available to you in, like in seconds. You can transfer that money. You can hire an Uber to go anywhere in any city I mean, in India right now. So these are all technological revolutions that are happening. So these are the kind of mega trends that are happening. That's the whole point. And just looking at urbanization trends in India itself, like if you look at the maps on the left side, I mean, you see the blue dots. Look at the blue dots, and how the number of blue dots is increasing from 1970 to 2030. So these blue dots are your big cities, 5 million to 10 million are cities, like your Kochi, the Vishakhapatnam, these kind of cities. And the red dots, those are your mega cities. So right now, we are not even saying that this percent of Indians live in cities. We are talking about 1 in 4 urban Indians live in the top 10 largest city agglomerations. Like 1 in 4 city dweller is living in either Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and such big cities. So the pressure to kind of provide for this population in bigger cities are growing day by day. And in less than a decade, by 2000, 30, we will be home to India. India will have one of the world's largest metropolitan regions. Like, I mean, even now we have some of the biggest cities globally. So, and this essentially, like these big cities are contributing to 50% of the urban GDP, and we'll have to stay competitive so that this trend kind of is competing with global cities as well. So, just what does that mean for our day-to-day life? Like, this kind of transformation. Uh, I mean, there are around 1 billion city dwellers who lacks access to housing. Around half the population, around 42% of the population, just slightly less than half, live without any access to power, electricity, and around 50% of the 50 to 80% of the jobs that are available in cities are in the informal sector. Informal sector, essentially, they do not have access to proper healthcare, education, and even the kind of financial stability that comes from a formal job. And around 80% of the poor lives in the periphery of the city. So, I mean, what that essentially means is that the periphery of the city, which is like a no man's land, I mean, where there is no, no or limited governance. So, essentially, you have to struggle for your basic amenities of water, of electricity, and even access to any kind of healthcare or educational facilities. And around 35% of the household income by especially low income communities are spent on transport, and half of the population in major cities lack access to piped water. More than half of the population lack access to sustainable sanitary sanitation systems like sewage and other human waste disposal systems. So essentially, that's the that is the situation, or that's the bleak picture of the world that we live in right now, and that is where essentially um, the social sector, the development sector, or the environmental sector comes into play. So, that is why I've given these broad topics as well, like, social impact. Anand and me were discussing what should be the title of this presentation. So essentially, people who create some kind of an impact on the society, on the community that we live in. That is the idea. And how can young professionals like you, who have that kind of inclination towards community, towards service, or even the an interest in in such developmental issues, right? How can you how do you get into the sector? How do you work towards solving the problems that we just that I just laid out? So that is the whole idea. So how that and what is so just jumping into, like, what development sector itself is. So essentially works to improve economic well-being, quality of life of a particular geography, or a local community, or even individuals. So, so essentially, I also wanted to have this one graphic on sustainable development goals, because a lot of the social impact development sector jobs is towards achieving the sustainable development goals in the global south, or in India, or any low, any such kind of developing nations. So, I just wanted to give you an idea, like, we have, the big players in the development sector, the UN, which works on projects to alleviate poverty, climate change, to end conflict between nations, in nations. Then World Bank, which raises funds to provide infrastructure for developing countries in various areas of education, health, infrastructure, public administration. So these are the two major, I mean, well-known examples. But there are several organizations that exist on a smaller scale, on a local level. So I mean that essentially gives you a picture of development sector itself. So where do the funds come for the development sector, right? Like, how do organizations like mine I mean, start working in this sector? So essentially it is I mean, more or less through social through corporate social responsibility funds, which is called the CSR fund, which is a public money. So essentially any company which has a net worth of 500 crores or more, or has a net profit of 5 crores or more during any of the financial year, they have to spend around 22% of their average net profit as CSR funding. So we have 25,714 crores. That is, I mean, 25,000 crores of money which is spent on CSR in just the last financial year. And that's the kind of potential there is, I mean, for social impact I mean, right now in just India, right? And this is only through CSR funding. And then there are other fundings coming from your financial institutes like World Bank, ADB, and there are also other country governments which provide funding to work on the social sector, like, the government of Germany or the government of France. So this is a huge opportunity for professionals who are willing to work in this sector. And you can see, I mean, you can just look at some of the sector-wise CSR funds that are spent, and more or less a lot in rural development, in education, differently abled and livelihood, in environment and animal welfare, health and sanitation, natural disaster relief. So these are some of the, I mean, some of the bigger, I mean, chunks where this fund goes to. So I'll just stop here. If there are any questions, please, I mean, feel free to put out your questions. Uh, so I just wanted to highlight some of the key career roles. And I mean, I am bunching this between your technical roles, like, which would be very specific to the kind of sector that you're I mean, angling towards. And then there are some generalist roles as well. So I mean, in the technical roles, I am just bunching it all under research, right? So there are I mean, most of the organizations like WRI or any other organization which are working in cities, urban development, or education, on natural landscapes, on health and sanitation. All of these areas, I mean, they require very specific people, but a lot of their work is towards, I mean, a lot of the roles are essentially roles where, I mean, they are mostly multidisciplinary. So like market researchers, so essentially they are looking at, I mean, how to map the state of the sector, like, I mean, like the various sectors that we discussed. Behavioral researchers who are essentially working with communities on ground. So it might be primary surveys or secondary surveys, and just engaged in, I mean, looking at the relationships that come out from this data. Then again, social scientists are, I mean, usually, I mean, they are interdisciplinary research, but I mean, they didn't need not be like a separate bunch. And then policy researchers, there are, I mean, people who create, I mean, who kind of come up with insights and learnings to advise governments and civil society. And then there are data analysts. So for example, I mean, when I talk about interdisciplinary research, I mean, for example, I am a civil engineer, and after completing my BTech in civil engineering, one thing that I was very clear about was I might not, I mean, I might not be a good fit in a very, I mean, highly technical civil engineering field like a structural engineer, or I mean, or a water resources engineer or anything like that. So I mean, I chose not to pursue an MTech in any of these disciplines. And one of the, I mean, it was essentially by chance that, you know, I got to know about I mean, urban planning as a course that I could do after civil engineering. And in my, I mean, and I mean, once I got into the urban planning course, it is such an interdisciplinary course that, you know, my class, we had civil engineers, we had architects, we had geographers, we had people who did their bachelor's in population studies, statistics, in sociology, and even bachelor's in planning as well. So essentially, that is the kind of, there are these kind of courses which are available in India after your BTech or uh, B.Ed, BSc, any of these courses. And apart from that, I have also added a few of these I mean, portals where you are, I mean, where you can find short courses on environment. So essentially, I mean, it does not really matter as to, you know, where you are coming from. I mean, what you did for your bachelor's. I mean, if you are willing to actually learn on the job, or, you know, if you're willing to do a few courses, if you're willing to pick up a few skills on the way, and above all of that, I mean, if you're really interested and inclined towards these jobs, there is always a role. And then there are, of course, I mean, if you're looking at 25,000 crores coming into this industry every year, it is almost, I mean, it is like, you know, I mean, it is like a huge industry. So this definitely requires, I mean, people in a managerial capacity, people who can, I mean, tell stories, like, you know, who can communicate well in the communications area. Then, of course, in accounting, in HR, I mean, logistics and procurement. These are all, I mean, these are all areas of work that, you know, you will be able to find in the social sector as well. Um, so, I mean, what are some of the preferable skills and traits? Here I've bunched both of them together because very specific skills, of course, are required for, I mean, many of the roles, but a lot of it is also your, I mean, your interest, and, you know, what you're passionate about. And those are the traits that I would like to highlight more. So I was also reading up, I mean, when I was called in for this, I mean, for today. So, I mean, it was, I mean, when I looked at various jobs that are available in the social impact sector, so, I mean, language is quite important in the sector. So especially if you're working with certain communities on ground. So, I mean, I'm not only talking about English. In fact, I'm not talking about English at all here. I'm talking about secondary languages, like, you know, probably your mother tongue. I mean, or the language of the city that you are living in, of the places that you are living in, or even, I mean, if you are, I mean, if you are interested in working in, I mean, some of the other countries, like, you know, look at, I mean, there, I think there is a big list of languages on, I mean, there is a UN list of languages, so you can take a look at that. And, you know, those are some of the, I mean, skills that are definitely preferable in this sector. Another skill that I would like to highlight is also data analysis and visualization. That, of course, I mean, it is not only, I mean, it is not only important in this social, I mean, development sector, but right now, I mean, data analysis is something that, it is very, I mean, it has gained a lot of prominence in today's world, where a lot of data definitely is generated from a lot of avenues, right? So here, I mean, even here in the development sector, I mean, you're looking at probably scrapping data from certain websites, or you're looking at, I mean, huge primary or secondary information that you're getting from surveys, or other census data, or all of this, right? Like, so here data analysis becomes very important. So I mean, if you have a skill, if you're good at Excel, I mean, if you can, I mean, if you're good at Excel or SPSS or any such data analysis software, it will be, I mean, it will be a huge plus. And along with data analysis, also look at data visualization. I mean, Power BI is something that, a lot of people use right now. Tableau is another one. So I mean, those are definitely, I mean, going to, I mean, put you in a good place when you're applying for any job, not only just the sector. And of course, when I was just, I mean, on the roles, I mean, there is communications becomes very important in this sector, because it is again a very niche sector, and it is all very funding based, right? Like, the kind of project that I am doing right now, it is funded by, I mean, the government of Germany. So of course they want to get the most out of it. And I mean, and there is a lot of opportunity to create awareness and build capacity within this sector. So again, communications and skills related to that becomes very important, like, your graphic designing skills. And of course, photography is also actually a subset of that. So I mean, that is definitely a plus to have that as a skill, or I mean, and technical know-how. I mean, it is what we discussed earlier. uh, I mean, just having that urge to read up about your sector. I mean, being up to date. And of course, like, when you're reading, I mean, one thing that, I mean, that we definitely need to. I mean, one thing that I would like to highlight is that, like, have your numbers in place. Like, read up on statistics, read up on, if we are talking about urbanization, I mean, know your numbers well. I mean, in any sector, if you're talking about education, like, look at, like, which are the states which are faring well, which are the states which are not faring well. So I mean, these are definitely going to help you in your interviews, in your, I mean, um, um, you might have to write SOPs. So I mean, like, always when you're writing a cover letter, or I mean, or like, why should you hire me kind of letter, always add, like, I mean, always have certain numbers, and keep all your sources also. That is, of course, I mean, every manager would definitely look at that as well. So yeah, I mean, that's on technical know-how. And of course, stakeholder management, people skills. I mean, not everybody kind of likes, I mean, not all of us are great at networking, or we have great people skills. But in this sector, I would definitely say that people skills is something which is really important. I mean, first of all, I think, I mean, if you are really passionate about the cause that you're working in, I mean, you are definitely going to have the right people skills. I mean, you don't need to talk to everybody who comes your way. But yes, I mean, that's something that is really important. Like how Anand mentioned, like, I mean, Anand and I worked together, I mean, with the government of Kerala on electric mobility projects. And, Anand was instrumental in, um, I mean, organizing one of the biggest conferences in Kerala on electric mobility. So, I mean, that's something that, that's something that comes on the job. I mean, this kind of sector is like, I mean, it's very interdisciplinary, and also the roles also keep changing. Like, you might be, I mean, at one point you might be a researcher, the next moment you might be an event manager, you might be a communications person, all folded into one. So that is why all of these skills are quite essential for everybody. I mean, not only if you are working on data analysis or communications or program management. And of course, social media management is also something very important. And I would also like to highlight that, nowadays, I mean, if you're applying for a job, every I mean, every job manager, like, whoever has called for that position, they are definitely going to look at your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile, your Instagram, whatever is available on social media of you. They're definitely going to look at all that. So, I mean, I wouldn't say be careful, but be responsible in on social media, and because the role might be such that, at some point you might have to like write a post for something that you're doing on your job. Like, you might have to write on a certain uh, I mean, on the budget speech. Like, you might have to write a social media post on that. I mean, so again, like, your skills on, how good you are at, capturing that information on social media, that, I mean, and how good you are at, maintaining your networks on social media. That is definitely something that is a good trait to have. And multitasking, I mean, we've just been talking about multitasking, and of course, uh, having multiple community volunteering activities, right? Like, if you have volunteered for an NGO, or I mean, or some kind of a government initiative. I mean, all of those definitely count. I mean, those kind of I mean, those are helpful in, I mean, creating that narrative about you being like, you have good stakeholder management skills, and how passionate you are about a certain cause. So, I mean, these are some things like, not only your I mean, it's not, they are not only good skills traits to have, but you should also make it a point as to, like, identifying what your strong skill sets are. And these also definitely need to go into your resumes or CVs as well. Like, if you think you're great at social media management, you should definitely put it down. If you think you have a good I mean, if you have like a list of volunteering activities that you have, and I mean, you should definitely put those down in your resumes. So after this, I mean, I have a lot of I mean, I've just added some links as to, how do you go about it. So internships, of course, I mean, it is something that I mean, that gives you that I mean, uh, that gives you like a I mean, a professional experience, I mean, at the beginning of your career. So, I mean, internships definitely count. So do as many internships as possible. Be, I mean, of course, be selective about it, but I mean, if you I mean, there are multiple internships ships available. I mean, you should there are internships available at WRI India as well. So, I mean, I would urge you to look at our website. Then I'll also share, like, I'll before I share this with the team, I will share like a list of companies you can look for internships. Another thing is also fellowships. So there are multiple fellowships in India. So fellowships, again, similar to internships, but longer, and it gives you a little bit more flexibility, I would say. Like, there are fellowships of Teach for India. I'm not sure how many of you have heard of it. Teach for India is I mean, a not for profit which works with low income community, children in the low income community. So essentially after your graduation, I mean, there are Teach for India fellowships, and there are also, I mean, it's not only a fellowship, they also provide you with, like, partial volunteering opportunities. So Teach for India fellowships is, I mean, these are more, I mean, immersive programs, I would say. So Teach for India fellowship is like a 1 year immersive program where they provide you training on teaching children, and then they kind of, like, you are sent to a location, and you're giving responsibility of like a bunch of children, probably a class of children, and I mean, all your expenses might be covered. There will be a minimal stipend. There is a stipend, but I mean, it is not, I mean, it's almost like an internship kind of stipend for your travel and living expenses. But there are multiple such fellowships. That's what I mean, I wanted to say. There are fellowships by SBI. There is the Ashoka Fellowship. So these are all various links where you can find such fellowships. Like, I came across these links. Um, and again, to find, I mean, where do you find such roles on, I mean, here, I mean, on in development sectors? So more or less, DevNet is where you can find a lot of these roles in India. Then Opportunity Cell is also another one in India. All of the others, DevX, Development Aid, Relief Web, they are a bit more international, I would say. And of course, in LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, I mean, what I would say is, like, find those champions, like, find those champions that you would want to follow on LinkedIn, and that is where essentially you will find your opportunities. uh, this is a very niche, small sector, so you might not find opportunities like you would in the IT sector, but create a network in LinkedIn if you are really interested in being part of this community. And I mean, it is through this network that you will definitely find jobs, I would say. So with that, I've come to the end of the presentation. I've been talking for so long, so um looking forward to your questions, and I'll answer to them. I'll answer them to the best of my knowledge. Over to you, Anand.
Yeah, while our participants think of questions to ask, and my request to all of you is, come up with all the questions you have. So, one question I have is, can you share any one project which illustrates the kind of work you do, and which will be a useful thing for people to relate to? What is the kind of work involved? How did you go
Sure.
about planning and doing it?
Definitely. So I mean, something that is more relatable is, uh, I mean, I started my career. I mean, after my BTech, I was working for 2 years, and then I did my masters. And the first after I mean, masters, the first project that I mean, I was working in was a road safety project. So this is in Delhi. So essentially, I mean, unlike in Kerala, I mean, we have, I mean, the roads in, I mean, Delhi, more or less, I mean, they are all, it's a planned area, right? So they are like very wide roads. So, I mean, my work, I mean, the road safety work was essentially to create awareness on road safety, and better infrastructure for pedestrians and people who are using non-motorized transport, like your cyclists, your people who are walking on the road, people I mean, who I mean, who are essentially, like your different categories of people, like there might be a pregnant lady walking, there might be somebody who is differently abled, who is blind or differently abled in other ways walking, or using a wheelchair on the road. So all of these segments of road users require different infrastructure. So my job was to create awareness and content and activities to improve awareness on road safety. So what we did was, like, we had this campaign called Rahagiri, which essentially loosely translates to, my right to use the road, right? This campaign was like, it was like on Sundays, you will identify one stretch of road in Gurgaon, and you kind of restrict access of motorized transport, like cars, two wheelers and all cannot go on that stretch of road. And you create other activities on the road, like you create areas for kids to play, for people to exercise or do yoga, or people to do even certain, like dance or song, like you have a stage and all of that. So essentially, uh, creating that, creating a concept that roads are not only for your cars and buses and just motorized transport. Everybody has a right to the road. So how we went about it is, like of course, like if you're restricting movement, especially of motorized transport on road, like you need certain permissions. So we were working with the traffic police in Gurgaon. We were working with the municipal commissioner's office in Gurgaon to get the various permissions required to do these kind of restrictions. Then of course, we needed to have certain we needed, definitely we needed funding for, right, for like creating these areas, and bringing in some paints, and setting up a stage, and all of that, of course needed funding. So we have we went with we went to a I think it was Hindustan Times at that point. So we went to Hindustan Times. We presented this idea to them, like, it is your pitch presentation, and how it is going to be useful for them, and how it is going to be useful for the community. And then HT came on board. And after that, this whole campaign was launched. We had the support of the Municipal Commissionerate of Gurgaon, and it went on for, I think, more than 2 years. Every Sunday, this road will be restricted, and more people started coming in, and it became a huge, movement in Gurgaon and Delhi. And very recently, when I found, these campaigns happen in Kochi and Thrissur also. So yeah, that's the kind of these are the kind of projects that you get to work in.
So somebody from Palakkad who identifies themselves as roots for survival knowledge is asking, how can we implement some of these concepts in village level planning, because that person is living in a village.
Right. So in Kerala, there is no place right now as a village. Okay, like most of our places, we are almost, urban, or on the verge of being urban. But that being said, village planning. There are multiple. There are multiple initiatives, strategies that are happening in Kerala, especially in the transport sector, on village planning, on creating better infrastructure in villages. Like, for instance, KSRTC came up with their project on Grama Vandi, which is essentially having better, better bus services in villages. So there are multiple such initiatives, especially in a state like Kerala, where there is a lot of focus on rural development. So yeah, I mean, you can, I mean, there are a lot of such opportunities and projects that you can read up on in the Government of Kerala website and multiple agency websites. But it is nice to know that there is somebody from Palakkad here.
And then the same person also asking how we can improve road safety. So, any project you've been involved in?
So, road safety, I mean, multiple levels, right? Like, so one is, of course, advocacy, which is a very slow and I mean, it is a slow and steady process, I would say. Uh, and so this, I mean, this kind of, like, creating awareness among people through different means, like, this campaign was one. There are other things that we do is, like, so a lot of the road safety issue is due to design. uh, it is not due to, I mean, there are multiple factors to it, but one of the biggest factor is, of course, due to engineering and design of the infrastructure that we have right now. I mean, we might always think it is, like, to do with enforcement of rules, or I mean, or I mean, even I mean, there are multiple news articles, I mean, when they kind of cover an accident, they try to attribute a lot of the blame on either the driver or the pedestrian or the I mean, the bike rider, all of that. So, with respect to this design, I mean, being a cause for, I mean, crashes, road crashes, what we do is, uh, I mean, we kind of look at certain junction designs. So, I mean, in a junction, if you look at junctions, um, a lot of the, I mean, there is a huge space in the junction, which would, I mean, which is kind of like no man's area, but which is actually, like, we have the black top on it, so it is essentially for vehicles, and there wouldn't be a segregated space for pedestrians to cross, or I mean, for cyclists to move, all of that. So what we do is, we, I mean, pick up a junction, we create an ideal design for it with respect to all road users, and there is something called tactical urbanism. So essentially, I mean, what it is like a temporary implementation of this solution on the ground, with the use of ropes and tapes and those plastic cones and all of that, and creating this junction on the road, and testing this out for a while, to see if that kind of streamlines the movement of pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. Then, I mean, with the kind of learnings that we have from this testing, we may have to make a few tweaks in these designs, and then we go ahead with the permanent implementation. So that's something that, I mean, I think in the last few years it has gained, I mean, a lot of prominence, and so these are some things. And I mean, of course, there are other I mean, initiatives on, creating better infrastructure for first aid, creating better infrastructure for I mean, bus users on the road. And I mean, of course, there are multiple guidelines and codes on road safety. So I mean, that's available in the Indian Roads Congress, so you can always read up on that. So yeah, I mean, there are these multiple strategies that you can improve road safety. Uh, Thanks for this question. So, I mean, there is a question again on gender inequality, and we are all affected in drugs. What can we do to, I mean, do for this? So, I mean, I'm not the right person to talk about this, but again, I mean, a lot of this, I mean, a lot of these questions and, a lot of these banes in the society, uh, I mean, it needs to be, it needs to be addressed through better communication, awareness, and education. So, I mean, that I would think is the best formula for, what you are talking about right now. And, I think I think just creating that kind of better awareness with regards to gender inequality, and even drug usage. So yeah, that's about it. I think, Anand, it's a call for you to have another talk on these topics as well.
Oh, thank you for that suggestion. I think we will find somebody to do that. Anybody else? You can also maybe unmute yourself and ask questions if you prefer that way.
It would also be great to see a few people.
So, friends, come on. This is a very good opportunity for you to, ask some questions to understand. Even simple things like, just knowing how, governments and how the society works. Aparna gets to work a lot with policymakers, government officials, and people like that, and where policy matters are discussed, and so whatever be the question you might have, just please feel free to ask, and we can discuss a little about those. Just as people, good citizens of the country.
I think if you have questions in Malayalam, we'll be able to handle that. Any other language might be an issue for us. Hindi is also all right. There is a question on climate change. It is, I think I've kind of spoken a lot about climate change during this presentation. So probably, you can share the presentation, and there are a lot of links also for folks who are interested, who can read up a lot more.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there was another question earlier, about village level, planning and interventions that could be useful at a village level. So maybe, while people come up with questions, I could share a little in a small project I was involved in a few years ago. So this was in the Nilgiris district of Tamil Nadu, in this place called the Gudalur. So I got the chance to be working with an NGO, which is working among the tribals. So the Nilgiris district has the largest concentration of tribals in South India. So I think some 30,000 people, tribal people belonging to various tribes like Irula, Mula, Kurumba, and various such Katu Naik, and those kind of people who live in the forest and live off the land in very primitive ways. So, one of the projects I got a chance to work with was a community health initiative for that tribal people. So, these kind of things are also part of social infrastructure, and villages and tribal areas also need it. So here, this organization, they set up a hospital in that area, and it was serving tribals in almost for free, and they were surviving based using funds they had raised from Tata Trust and various other corporates, but also various benevolent individuals. And but more important, the hospital is very beautiful, very basic facilities, but very beautiful, and how it helped the tribal. But far more important for that community was the real field level work those people were doing, where they had what they called as health animators, who would go to all these tribal areas inside the forest, walk to these tribal areas and talk to people about their health. And even something as simple as when you fall ill, go see a doctor, what they technically call as health seeking behavior. This itself is lacking among the tribals. When they are sick, they just sit home and they bear the pain. And these people really can bear pain and hunger and hardships, because they grow up getting used to all that. So even something as simple as when even for us, even for a small thing, we go running to a doctor. But health seeking behavior does not come naturally to the tribal areas. They don't trust the doctors. They don't trust people like us, city dwellers. They don't have that trust in us. So they don't go to hospitals and doctors. So going and talking to them, understanding their problems, making facilities to carry a sick person to the hospital. All these was part of the wonderful work that NGO was doing. So all these are areas which require ingenuity, initiative, compassion, care, but also we need to implement all the modern practices, management techniques, the technical know-how which we acquire while we go about studying for our degrees. So all of these are useful in these sectors. So the NGO sector as a whole, and more broadly speaking, what is called the social impact sector or the development sector, it gives you opportunities to work in meaningful areas, which make an impact to people and the communities they live in. So I would encourage all of you to consider a career in these areas if you haven't. If you find it interesting, you can. I hope some of the tips which Aparna also gave today would be useful. So, any more questions? Really, we would really like to hear from all of you.
There is a question on pollution as well. So yeah, I mean that's also another avenue for I mean of work. Like there is a lot of work on I mean there is a lot of work on creating I mean policy level decisions on combating pollution. I mean it's I mean in the mobility sector, in the agriculture sector, in the power sector as well. Um, any way to know all the NGOs working in Kerala? Um, I can share a list probably, but the only thing is like a lot of my network is in in the urban planning and policy. So, I mean, I'll try to find some NGOs in other healthcare, education, uh, gender sectors as well. But yeah, I mean, I'll just share a few over here.
And really, if you are interested in doing that kind of work, look around, in the papers, some of the reporting would be there, and find NGOs which are doing meaningful work. Once you start engaging with those communities, you will find more and more people who are, working in, any specific sector you are interested in. So, it really is about having that interest, and then you will start seeing people who are doing wonderful work. So, if we don't have any other questions, I think we have also, overshot some of the our time limits we had set for ourselves. If we have questions, we'll be happy to continue. But otherwise, then maybe we can conclude. Purnima, would you like to comment?
Yeah, yes, sir. I hope there is no other questions. Yeah, so good evening, everyone, once again. So, on behalf of SkillActz and everyone, I thank our speaker, Ms. Aparna Vijaykumar, for this wonderful session. Unlike the technical field, we were not really aware of the vast career opportunities in the social impact field. And I'm sure this session was definitely helpful to those who are really keen about working with NGOs, so that they can contribute towards solving many problems that we face. Thank you so much, ma'am. Also, I extend my gratitude towards Anand sir and Meena ma'am for making this event happen. I'm also very grateful to all the students and all others who are present here today for participating and making this an interactive session. I would also like to thank Govind and Amin for the technical support throughout this session and everyone who contributed to the success of this event. Thank you all. Also, students, if there is any of your friends who couldn't join the session, please let them know that the recording of the session will be available on our SkillActz YouTube channel. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Aparna. So nice having you here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for this interactive session. Bye.